Hello, everyone, and welcome to RWB Sports. Hi, this is Reginald Peoples, and today we have the opportunity to sit down and talk to another aspect in the field of athleticism. And as you know, with RWB Sports, we like to talk and speak to everyone that it takes to put together, a great event. I know you get used to seeing the final results of, you know, the night of. But there's a whole lot that goes into getting to that point. And today we have an opportunity to talk to Dr. Danielle Aguilar. She is a rehabilitation, strength and conditioning physician who helps athletes who have strained a muscle, pulled a muscle, or maybe feeling some type of way in helping them get to that point of perfection, to that point of feeling the best they can. So I want everybody at this point to join me in welcoming Dr. Aguilar to the show. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you, Reginald. I appreciate you having me. I know we had met in the past, so I'm excited to be back.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. For the fans and things that are watching, let's let them know, what reaction sports rehab. What is that about, and what is your role in that facility?
So, reaction rehab and sports performance is exactly what it sounds like, meaning we are really truly bridging the gap between rehab and sports performance. A lot of times, your run of the mill PT clinics will wait until you get injured or things along those lines. And what we do here at our clinic, and I'm a sport performance therapist and proud owner of reaction rehab and sports performance. Our job is not just to get them better, but to help them exceed where they were at originally. So, let's just use an athlete I'm currently working with. We work with athletes year round. She came in with said injury. We got her feeling 100%. And then the next thing that we do is continue to build her program. So that's where the sports performance side comes into play. And we build programs based on the athlete that is catered to the sport and not the other way around. A lot of PTs, including myself back in the day, was guilty of building out generic programs for athletes. If they were a boxer, I would provide them with this program. If they were a baseball player, I would provide them with this program. Now it is very, very customized because we can take the time here at Reaction. We work one on one. So we really, really build a customized program that's tailored to what they need. Again, cater to their sport.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful because we predominantly focus on boxing because that's a love of mine. That's a passion of mine that I had, growing up boxing from such a young age all the way up until now. And we didn't have, you know, the capabilities that fighters have today. Now, in your journey in rehab from when you first started, and I know you had to go through your doctorate and everything, you had to go through, internships and things like that. How have you seen modern medicine for athletes advance?
Gosh, it's evolved so much. And I can use myself as an example. I experienced my own fair share of injuries, and one of them was a ruptured Achilles. And back in the day, it was highly sought after to get it immediately, immediate surgical intervention. And nowadays, there's the opportunity where research has evolved, and our body, we're utilizing our body and our healing properties more naturally, and so surgery necessarily isn't necessarily warranted and or the best route. Now when we start working with professionals, that's changed, but the evolution in terms of the thought process, let's just go immediately into surgery, is no longer the immediate yes, let's do that. Now, talking out of both ends of my mouth, surgery may be warranted for our professionals because the recovery time is a little bit faster in terms of they've already healed it, as opposed to letting the body naturally heal. But just knowing that we've evolved in that way is awesome. Now let's dissect that a little bit more. I've recently partnered with a fantastic group, and I work with several different other medical doctors. The missing piece that my clinic needed was getting them looking at the body from an inside viewpoint, not just MRIs, not just x-rays, but being able to have a doctor that believes in performance and allowing them to really, again, exceed where they were at. So getting people's blood work is super important to really optimize their performance at all levels. You have off season, you have in season, you have preseason, and we work through that together. So a lot of the evolution of where our performance care has come from is actually gathering more data than just say their movement patterns, which is what I do. I've partnered with a really great group, and they've really helped me build better athletes. Really and truly what our motto is here in this clinic. We really believe that we have the capability, the knowledge, the wherewithal to build the best athlete possible.
And that's fantastic, because I know back in the day when I played, I've had my ACLs torn, I've had the reconstructed elbows and things like that, and I wasn't young, but I was right at the brink of my professionalism at that time. And I heard you mention that you cater to them on different levels, whether they're an amateur athlete or whether they're a pro athlete. Now, let me ask you this: is that based on the recovery time, because they are professional? That is, they way of living, opposed to an amateur where they still have time to heal? Is that why you all would recommend, surgery, which is a faster healing process than letting the body naturally heal as an amateur?
So there's two routes that you can look at that. Some surgeons will give you the two options of, if you go the surgical route, these are the pros and cons. If you go the non-surgical route, these are the pros and cons. And the doctors that I work with really take the time to give you all the information so the athlete can make the most, an informed decision. And, different athletes have different viewpoints, and it depends on where they're at in their career. So if they're early on, it might be recommended by their medical team, including myself, that they may want to do they may want to go the non-surgical route, because a surgery is a surgery is a surgery, meaning it's still invasive. You still have to go through the recovery process from a surgery. And if you go the non-surgical route, you're allowing your body to truly heal in the way that the body wants to. The con to that is that if your body is looking to heal on its own, it may not heal the way that we need it to. And with explosive athletes, football athletes, boxers, I have the privilege of working with a variety of athletes, sprinters. When they're that explosive, sometimes it's not the best route to go non-surgical. Speaking to boxing, I call it, I have my ballerinas that are elegantly explosive, and then I have my boxers that are elegantly, violently explosive. You need to be able to explode on a dime and be able to make impact with their opponent and do it very quickly. And so going the non-surgical route may not be the best bet. Again, it can vary. Some amateur athletes that are on the brink of going professional may need to go down the route of surgery. And surgery isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just truly where the athlete is. And again, at Reaction, we look at all of that. Where is the athlete at the point of their career? If they're still very young, they're still looking to decide if this is the profession they want to go down, or if this is something they do recreationally, then we may lean on going down the route of non-surgical. But if, let me not be too redundant, depending on the athlete will determine what the best route is for them.
That's excellent. Now, in that same mindset, I know that you said you've worked with different athletes, and you work with different athletes in different aspects of sports. Do you have a time to where you sat down and you talked to
Oh man, Reginald, you broke up. Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
when you had you was talking about the different athletes in the different sports? I was just wanting to touch base on you working with an athlete or with a parent of an athlete, and modifying and designing a rehabilitation program with them or with another physician. And what was the turnout of that program that you designed for a specific individual? It could be any sport. It doesn't matter which one.
So, if they, and let me make sure I understand it, is they go the surgery versus the non, because I kind of got a little bit lost
Okay.
in that
Well,
question.
it's not surgery or non-surgery. It's just sitting down and working with. Let's say that someone came into you and they were having, lower extremity issues. They was having, pain and doing certain things. What type of program, rehabilitation program, yeah, would you make up for them,
Okay.
and what were the results, of that?
Sure. So let's just stay in the light of boxing, and we can use an athlete that I just saw earlier today. A lot of the times boxers present with several ailments. In a very common injury in boxing is a shoulder injury, hand injuries. And so the very first step when they come in our doors is tell me why you're here, and then what are your goals, and then we go through a head to toe assessment and we look at everything, not only how they're moving, with us putting our hands on them and actually moving them in certain ways. We also provide treatment that will be specific to what they present with. So let's kind of go through that really quick. After we go through that assessment, based off of what they present with, we'll focus on the treatment. After the treatment has been implemented, we will then provide a customized program that would be specified to them. We don't provide, 8 to 10 exercises, take this program and, call me in a month. It's really, really, again, customized. I use that word at nauseum, but it's the truth. We really make sure that when we're building a program for an athlete, we take the time on the very first session to see where they're at, what their goals are, provide the treatment that's warranted, and then a customized program that is needed to facilitate whatever treatment we implemented. Now, a program, depending on where they're at and what their goals are, we can see, as I mentioned earlier, a year round program. I currently have a good amount of athletes that I work with all year, and it will very much vary. If they are, let's just talk about my professional boxers. When they're in training camp, their performance care is going to look very different when they've already won their bout. Now they're in the off season. So then what we'll do is start rebuilding whatever their goal might be. For example, if their main goal is to build up their strength, we will provide them with the program that is needed to make sure that whatever they're doing outside of our clinic is going to facilitate what we're doing inside the clinic. So again, it's definitely a lot of customization, and so there really isn't a cookie cutter program. But the big picture is basically how I broke it down. The initial performance, get to know the athlete, provide their treatment as necessary. Depending on their goals, we'll build out a program for them.
That's excellent, because that's going to lead me right into my next question. Because I was going to say, just say an athlete came to you and they wanted to increase their athleticism. It was nothing wrong, but they wanted to enhance their abilities that they had. Now, is that a different type of assessment? Is that a different type of program that you would acquire for that individual?
That's a great question, because a lot of the times before we started educating our community and our surrounding and our athletes that we work with, for them to come in without any injuries is a gift, right? I love working with athletes at all levels, whether whether they've experienced an injury or they truly want to elevate their performance, because as a sport performance therapist, our job is to help them exceed where they were at. So it still looks very similar if they did have an injury versus they didn't. They'll still come in. We still need to get to know the athlete on all levels. What do they do? What are they doing outside of boxing? What does their daily routine like? What's their nutrition look like? We really dissect all of that. And then when we look at their movement patterns, we don't have to focus on their problematic area. We get to look at them at an even bigger picture and get more raw data, objective data is a better term, to give numbers to see if their right side has more power or strength than their left side, and that's through a limb symmetry index test that we implement for them. And that's just a really great tool to provide them with objective data. And let's just say they want to increase their strength. So with these objective numbers, we will take them through a program, and the way that looks is ideally we want to see them at least twice before we let them start their training program on their own, because the first session is getting a lot of data, looking at their 3 big lifts, which is deadlift, back squat, and bench press. And that's just kind of an easy way for us to start looking at those 3 movements and see where their weight is at. It's very rare that we'll do a 1 rep max. We really lean into a 3 and a 5 rep max. That's more functional. And we should see a safe and steady increase in their strength. And that'll be reassessed over the course of the next month to month and a half, depending on if they're even in state. A lot of our athletes are out of state, even out of the country. So we really try and reduce the time frame to at least a 2-month time frame. If we start with them on this date, it shouldn't extend any more than 2 months, unless they won't be back in the States until whatever time frame. So we really customize, again, to the athlete that's in front of us. But the expectation that every athlete should get across the board, if they're coming to us specifically for performance training, they'll get that initial performance evaluation. We'll get that objective data. We'll see them back for their second session. Give them a workout regimen that they need to implement over the course of the next 2 to 4 weeks, and at least, at minimum, see them monthly. In a perfect world, we would see them weekly so we can progress their program. And it doesn't mean that the results are necessarily that far off. Yes, if they see us more frequently, they will more than likely have an increase in their strength or increase in their endurance. Whatever their goal might be, we'll be able to implement way more customization when they're right in front of us, as opposed to them training on their own. However, when they have a program that we're providing specifically for them, we should see an improvement in their performance.
And that's astonishing, because as I've gotten older, I've started to work out a little bit more than I normally did. And so one of the doctors that I was working with, they had a chart. And because I can't see them regularly like I want to, because they're actually in Tennessee and I'm here in Pennsylvania, and they have a chart that I record all my stuff in that they can see as well. And according to my calculations of the exercises and things that I do, and the increase in weight, the increase in reps, I log all of that data into a folder, and they work with me, and they let me know that, okay, it's time to increase this or it's time to increase that. Do you all do some sort of the same thing for your clients that are out of the country or out of state? Do you all offer that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and I say yes. The biggest thing is tracking their performance. So not only do we see it, but they can see the objective data. So every athlete has their own reaction account, where we'll provide them with all of the data that we've collected for them, on top of providing their programs there. So each athlete also has our athlete direct line, because if there's ever a question during their performance training, they're unsure if they should do this, or if they're actually feeling some kind of discomfort while training, I literally say verbatim, send me a text message. I don't care what time it is. And if it is after hours, at least they've already dumped that message over to me. And then the next business day, I'll get back to them. Now, if I happen to be on vacation, I have a teammate, and we work really well, really closely in that light. And so there won't be a time frame, especially if I know that some of my athletes are in training camp or getting ready for an event, whatever that looks like, whether it's a basketball game, football game, baseball, whatever. I'm aware of that, and basically I plan my schedule kind of around the athletes. It's a privilege and a curse at the same time.
Right. I was going to say, when you mentioned vacation, I was like, do you even get a vacation? I follow you on social media, and I'm constantly seeing you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, but I'm constantly seeing the great work that you're doing with these young athletes and these athletes in general. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to reach out to you again to have you on the show because I know how much time and how much effort you put into helping these young athletes. Now, let me ask you this because I'm real big now on dietary uh, foods and supplements. Not so much supplements as much as just eating right. Whereas before, when I was boxing before, I had to diet all the time. I retired. I turned into a junk food junkie. How important
We're
is
doing
it?
that.
How important is it that a diet is part of rehabilitation? Because I know that there's different foods and things that you can eat to help you and help your muscles recover faster. Do you all touch in that, or do you work with dietitians to help with muscle recovery when it comes to rehabilitation?
Absolutely. I've worked with now three different registered dietitians here in San Antonio is where we're at. I've worked with the UTSA registered dietitian, and since we've gone through two other ones. It's super important. I'm going to use ballerinas as an example. They really have to make sure they're watching their intake because that's just the nature of the beast with their sport. They need to maintain a certain stature. I mean, the same for boxing. So with that in mind, if they haven't already looked at, normally when they get to me, they've already established an eating routine that's good for them. But if I do have athletes that are seeking out um, nutritional advice, excuse me, I can provide advice, but I know my limitations, and basically I stay in my lane. I do have a few registered dietitians that I do recommend. It just depends on the athlete, but again, working with several doctors, like the ones I'm currently partnered with, they take the time to dissect that, and then they also are bringing on a registered dietitian as well. So we're working to build better athletes with all the components, and nutrition is so huge. I can't emphasize it enough to my athletes. And again, it's an overview of education that I provide to them, but it doesn't go without saying I make sure that they are eating or they are getting a well balanced meal first and foremost. And then of course it does vary for my boxers that are cutting weight when they're getting closer to their fight time. It does change, but they're doing it in a way that they've been under advisement, normally through the gym that they come from. If I'm noticing that it is a very fast cut, it's not something that's ideal. And at the professional level, they should know better by that point. Again, I do stay in my lane, but when I do get people asking for recommendations, we do have a few. And again, when I'm first getting to know them, I do make sure that they are looking or they are taking care of that dietitians, that they're getting their nutrition down.
Right. And so that's one of the things that, I try to, focus on it is the collaboration. That's one of the things that, like, what the show is about. It's about collaborating with everybody that it takes to put on a great boxing event, from the first responders to security to the venue itself, from you, which are, rehabilitation or strength and conditioning. It takes a whole lot of people to collaborate to make something happen. And that's why I wanted to ask if you collaborated with other doctors, you collaborated with nutritionists, and how important it is for you all to work together. As far as even rest, how important is it for a body to rest in order to rehab, efficiently and effectively? How important is rest to the body?
I am one that could be at fault for, working with some athletes that, I just want to train. And if I don't train, I'm going to fall off. Then fall off meaning like they're missing out on a day that they could be getting better. And rest is so important. And I just recently used this phrase called aggressively rest. And all that means is you're not doing anything. And I'm going to use a ballerina as an example. We have an audition, a performance coming up, and we're experiencing said issue. And there's really nothing we can do except allow that body part to rest. And it's even hard for me to say, all we can do is rest. That's all we can do. And so then I just threw that phrase out there, aggressively rest. Sometimes your body just needs to be still, right? You do not need to be putting any stress under it. There's been a lot of research that supports active rest. Sure, there's some days that you can do that and be okay, but there's a lot of the time it's truly about allowing your body to be still. And there was another example working with another one of my boxers. We ran into an issue and it really boiled down to, don't move your hand, or don't move your said limb, whether it's your hand, whether it's your lower leg, don't move it, and let's see how you do in a few weeks. And it was night and day. So it's a reminder for myself. And I've been doing this for, on the low end of 10 plus years, which is crazy to think. And every day we're learning, and it's a check, right? When it's as simple as just resting. Don't move, be still, enjoy the time that you're not putting your body through the rigorous training that most of the athletes that we work with do. And don't get me wrong, we work with fitness enthusiasts that are trying to accomplish their first marathon. And it's just, a lot of the times, a phrase that I've learned through my residency was, too much too soon with too little recovery. And that's where injuries come from. Too much too soon with too little recovery. And so my job as a sport performance therapist with these elite athletes is to be very, very transparent, point blank. You need to stop moving. And sometimes that's really hard to hear. Even myself, as a former collegiate athlete way back in the day, when all you want to do is compete and all you're told is, hey, you got to rest, it's a little challenging and hard to hear sometimes.
It is. Trust me, it really is. But coming from an old athlete, and I'm pretty sure you can contest to this as well. Listen to your physicians. Listen to listen to the ones that are trying to help you because they went through it and they didn't listen. That's why they're telling you you need to listen. I probably wouldn't. Yeah, I probably
Exactly.
wouldn't have had half the surgeries that I've had, if I would have just listened. Like I said, I've had two
Gosh,
knee
aren't you right?
surgeries. I've had two elbow reconstructive surgeries. I've had over 100 surgeries on my eyes, and now they're telling me I
Oh,
need hip replacements. But here's the fun fact of it all. This time, well, not this time next year, probably February, March, I'm getting back in the ring again
mhm.
at 58. I have a charity event that we're doing, and I'm gonna get back in the ring again.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
at 58.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So I may
Hey,
be,
you get in there.
I may be calling you afterwards, trying to set up a plan. Yeah,
I was gonna say, you might want to just keep my
yeah.
number saved just in case.
Without question, I'll definitely be calling you, wanting to know. Uh, Now that they've popped the hip back in place, what do I need to do now to recoup? But no, that's awesome. We just don't know when. But if we would just listen, because you all have gone through it, and not only have you, doctor, have particularly gone through collegiate sports, but you've gone on to do your residency in physical therapy, so you can come back and help those uh, that didn't get the type of help that you got when you were coming up and going through sports. Uh, as far as your schedule goes, because I know you're extremely busy and you have clients can't in and out, how do organize? How do you construct a day-to-day plan to help you? Because I know you have different athletes in different sports. How do you come together to create a plan for the day to help your clients?
It's evolved, I will say. It's been a true blessing, and I say this all the time, and I mean it genuinely. I get to work with some amazing athletes, and I don't take that for granted. And it's always humbling when athletes are like, "Hey, you've worked with this athlete. I only want I want to work with." with you guys at Reaction, it's awesome and I love it. And so, with that being said, my approach to my day to day does evolve with the athletes that I work with. Again, working with professionals to youngins as young as 8 years old that I'm only seeing virtually. It really does make me a better clinician to be able to, when I do get a chance to see them in person, I really capitalize on their movement patterns and what really they're looking for in terms of what they told me on what they're trying to accomplish with their goals. So what I'm getting at is my preparation varies, but the overall approach is I will normally take a day, Thursday, Friday, to look at the week to come and really try and see where I'm going to really need to focus a lot more of my energy. I have a day blocked off just for programming because a lot of the athletes that I work with are needing updated programs. So I've squared off a day where I only work on programming, take any calls from any athletes that I may have missed during the week, or return any messages. Outside of that, a lot of the times before the day starts early morning, I'll take a gander, I'll look at my day and see which athletes I am currently working with and then prepare that way. Other than that, it's really going to be, it really does go week to week mostly. If I know that I have a lot of events coming up, if a lot of my fighters have fights coming up, or my athletes have track meet, basketball, whatever the case may be, because again, since we get to work with such amazing athletes, I love going out to support and seeing them in their element. So I also block off time to go see them perform. It helps me from a sport performance standpoint. How are they performing in real live action? And how can I make sure it carries over into their performance program in clinic?
That's fantastic. Because the reason I asked that question, because what we do here at RWB Sports, here in the Pennsylvania area, we care for our young athletes tremendously, and so we do everything we can to try to help them advance and to get further. One of the questions I'm going to put out there to them is if they would be subject to working with a rehabilitation facility to help strengthen their performance or to help increase their performance. And in doing so, I'm going to offer them a session. But I want to get with you and see if we can put a packet together that is going to be paid for by RWB Sports. But they will get to work with you personally on a journey to help them grow and evolve in the sport of boxing. That's one way that I'm able to give back to the fighters and able to give back to you, the rehabilitation facility, for coming on and taking time out to be on the show. So I don't want to do it without, at least trying to get you more, I won't say more responsibility because it's not like you don't have enough already. You know what I mean? But
No,
yeah,
no, that's amazing.
but
I mean, I think that I love that idea, and we can definitely talk more about that.
yeah, that'll be great. And even if, like you said, you have someone that you're working with, if you have a young intern that's coming
Yeah.
up or someone that's doing a residency, maybe you can, turn them over to them. But that's still a way to grow
Exactly.
reaction rehab. So I'm going to take this last
Yeah.
minute and a half that we have and turn the floor over to you and let the people that are watching, let the viewers know where you are, where you're located, how they can get in touch with you, where they can find you on social media, and then I'll come back and we'll close it out.
Okay. So we're located in San Antonio, Texas. And an easy way to get a hold of us, especially on social media, would be reaction underscore sport rehab. And the other way is looking us up on Google. Just look up reaction rehab and sports performance. There's a million ways you can get a hold of us. If you simply Google it, we should pop up, or even typing out sports performance therapy, we should pop up. Again, San Antonio, Texas. We're located in the near the medical center. if there's any way, maybe you can attach the link also for us. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
To work with me for the second time on the show. And this one we got worked out and is going to work out perfectly. And hopefully it's going to attract more people to what you do and where you are, because you all play a big part of athletes in general.
Yeah.
And I just say boxing because that's, my forte. That's what I'm into. So hopefully it will attract more fighters, MMA, boxing, bare knuckle,
Right.
whatever the case may be, your way. So that way we can uh, get more and better information on what it takes for our bodies to recover. Because I know in the past, we would recover, but we would hurt.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times we would resort to uh, prescribed narcotics, I guess you would say, to ease the pain. But I know that there's other ways to help those aches and pains subside
Mm-hmm.
without having to take that and then becoming reliable for them, which takes us down another path. But I want to thank you so much for coming on the show.
Right.